Knowing what I know now, I would have gotten medium-sized locks for a few reasons. Number one, hey guys, Tiffany Ofili Porter here, where I discuss all things life after sport. I'm in my Sisterlock chair. I have my sister loctician Melissa here, and this is part 3 of our Loctician Speaks series. Melissa, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. This is going to be a really good one. So in this video, I am going to discuss some of the things that you should consider before getting Sisterlocks. Kind of like the cons of getting Sisterlocks, because I think it's very important as we are painting this beautiful picture of a Sisterlocks journey to discuss what some of the negatives can be. So number one, I think we definitely just need to mention the time investment of getting Sisterlocks. So when you go to get your installation, it takes time. And when you go to have your maintenance or retightening appointments, similar to what I'm doing right now, it also takes time. So Melissa, can you kind of speak a little bit to the time commitment that it takes to get an installation?
Yeah, so it's kind of like touching on what we were talking about last time, that when you do your installs, they always take into consideration like the density of your hair. So if you have high density, it can probably take longer, but you look for anywhere between, I would say, 8 to maybe 16 hours to get your hair done.
And that is typically spread between 2 days, correct?
Some, if it's like 8 hours, they might be able to get you done in a day, but normally it takes 2 days.
2 days. So that is a big time commitment. People who have a very busy schedule, you need to keep that in mind. If you can't carve out 2 days to go get them installed, Sisterlocks may not be for you. And similar to that, even the retightenings that you must do every 4 to 6 weeks or so, they also take time. So my retightening appointments can take upwards of 6 hours. Now, Melissa has mentioned in previous videos, if you haven't seen those, go back to part 1 and part 2 in this series. But I have a lot of locks, so my retightenings do take longer than your typical clients. Usually you average about 2.5 hours, right? Yeah, so if you do have very dense hair and you do have a lot of locks like I do, you need to also probably carve out about 5 hours of your schedule every month or so to go get your hair retightened. Number 2, we also need to talk about the cost. We mentioned this in part 1, but I want to make this video inclusive of all of the cons. The cost of getting Sisterlocks can be pretty substantial, right, Melissa?
It can. Just that first initial, but I always kind of look at it as when I decided of how much I was spending on my hair anyway. And when I say spend it, I mean everything that you do to your hair.
Yeah.
And that can kind of help you decide if it's something within your budget.
That is true. To get an installation, it does vary depending on the length of your hair. It can be anywhere between like $900 to upwards of thousands and thousands of dollars if your hair is down to the middle of your back. So that is something to consider as well. If you want to get those Sisterlocks installed, you need to really budget and just make sure that it's going to fit into your lifestyle, because that is a bit of a commitment when you want to get them installed.
Right. But also, too, for installation, if you do have long hair and they're quoting you those $1,000 prices, you can cut your hair.
That's true.
You just have to, because your hair will grow back, but you have to be ready to cut it.
Yeah, even though some people I feel like would be like, I'm not going to cut my hair.
I've seen a girl with just as much hair as you loosely, and they get it done, and I'm pretty sure they spent about $2,000 or $3,000, because baby, that's a lot of hair.
Yeah. I do think it's important to talk about trade-offs, because like you mentioned, thinking about how much money you would spend on your loose natural hair in like products. So, I mean, with Sisterlocks, for those of you who don't know, we really don't use that many hair products at all. All I really use is shampoo. I don't even use conditioner, even though Melissa told me I can.
I do.
Yeah, some people do use conditioner, but you don't necessarily have to. and then all of the greases and oils and creams and serums and all the things that we used to use as loose naturals, we don't have to do anymore with Sisterlocks. I do use mousse on my hair when I'm doing my curls, like my pipe cleaners. By the way, if you want to learn how to achieve curly locks, make sure you check out this video right here. But when you factor all of that in and you take the price of those products away and the price that you would charge going to a hair salon for a perm or a press or, you know, a wig install or all of the different things that we do to black hair, you can kind of nullify that, and it kind of can cancel itself out with your retightening and your installation cost of Sisterlocks, right, Melissa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind, the retightenings also cost money. Obviously, you need to pay your loctician for her time. So mine are about $170. But Melissa, how much do you pay for your retightenings?
I pay about the same as you, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even though you have way more hair than me, but it all depends on the loctician. Because I'm still like a trainee, I don't never try the full price that most people do charge. My base rates do start at $135.
Okay, yep.
And then that's how most locticians do. They have a base rate, and then depending upon how long it takes to do your retightening, they charge you from there.
Got it. Yeah, and that's actually the perfect segue into the next con, or I guess next consideration with Sisterlocks, and that is professional installation is required. So you can't just go to any old person on the street and say, hey, I want Sisterlocks, go ahead and install it. I'll be here Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning. There's a whole process that has to take place to get to that point. First of all, many locticians won't even agree to touch your head until they have what they call as a consultation, right, Melissa? So first you have to have the consultation with the loctician, but even before then, the loctician themselves needs to be trained in the art of Sisterlocks, because Sisterlocks are under the umbrella of Microlocs, but it's a brand. It's a brand that you're paying for that has a very specific grid pattern, and not everybody knows how to achieve the Sisterlocks branded style. So you're paying for their expertise, for their time, and sometimes finding someone who is skilled in the art of Sisterlocks is not as easy as you might think, because somebody that might just have, oh, I do locks. Doing traditional locks, you know, palm rolls or just traditional interlocks can be a very different skill set than doing Sisterlocks.
Yeah, and Sisterlocks is mainly, it's a brand because of its grid. So Dr. Caldwell, because that's the founder of Sisterlocks, she spent many years, you know, perfecting that grid, and it's supposed to help you to still be able to style your hair. So that grid is important when it comes to Sisterlocks. Absolutely.
And sometimes if you go and switch locticians and they don't know what they're doing, they can mess up your grid. And theoretically, once you mess up that grid, are they still considered? No. Yeah. Once you mess up that grid, they're no longer Sisterlocks. You have Microlocs. So that is something to also consider. Now, some people don't really care about the grid. They don't really part their hair. They don't really care about the uniformity. And then in that case, Sisterlocks may not be for you, because you could go get Microlocs and achieve a very similar look and pay significantly less. And maybe even have a larger pool of locticians who can service you and do those retightenings. So sometimes people just assume if it's a small lock, it's automatically Sisterlocks, and that is not always the case.
Right. And since you were on retightenings, just kind of one thing to kind of point out, because you are doing Sisterlocks, the method that we're using to install the Sisterlocks is interlocking. And so because of that, you have to get your retightenings done every 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. You can't do like traditional locks and think you can wait a whole year. You can't. You have to get your locks done within that time frame, or you're likely going to lose your locks because they're so tiny and you got that weight pulling down on the base of your hair.
That is such an important thing to mention, because sometimes with hair, you can, you know, just do a style, and when you're tired of it, take it off and move to the next thing. With Sisterlocks, it's almost like you're making a commitment at the beginning and throughout your journey consistently. Because if you want to have your locks be healthy, the way Melissa's look, the way mine are still doing all these years later, you need to commit to doing regular retightening. And that goes back to the time commitment that Sisterlocks require. I have to commit to getting those retightenings, or it can lead to breakage. Now, that is actually another con that we need to discuss as well, because with the locks, okay, say for instance, I leave Kansas City and I need to go find a new loctician in wherever we move. God forbid, I don't want to move anytime soon because I like Melissa. But if that happens to be the case, I would need to be very diligent in finding that loctician. That's actually a separate point. We'll get to that. But if the loctician that I go to just says, yeah, I can do Sisterlocks, but she doesn't do it properly, it can lead to holes in your locks. Now, I've heard people talk about holes before, and it's really hard to kind of explain what it looks like because I don't have any holes in mine, but I can maybe attach a photo of what it looks like. But essentially, because of the way that she's doing the retightening,
there's different rotations you can do. But if you keep going in the same spot over and over, it causes the holes.
And then if you have those holes, there's like an area of vulnerability, which can lead to literal breakage and your locks falling out. Who wants to spend all that time and money and have, first of all, crazy looking locks because it doesn't look good when there's holes, and then have them falling out on top of that?
This is an investment. Well, you're invested in yourself and your hair, so I would say keep it healthy and listen to your loctician.
Listen to your loctician. Stay hydrated, eat healthy, try to avoid stress. I think all of those kind of go without saying for just hair and just well-being in general, but it also matters when you have Sisterlocks. So kind of going to the next point that I mentioned about finding that qualified loctician, sometimes a little bit tricky in figuring out who's going to be the person who's going to be your loctician that you're going to see every 4 to 6 weeks. So I had no problem in Michigan. I had somebody, and in Ohio, I had somebody that I kind of stumbled upon, but it took me a long time to find a loctician in Ohio because none of these women wanted to take on new clients. They hadn't even seen my hair. It wasn't even as if I sent them a photo of my hair and they were like, oh, you have 20 locks. It was like, nope, my books are full. Probably because there's fewer locticians, they just have more clients.
That's true.
And they just were interested in getting new clients. And I was suffering that because it got to a point where I had gone like maybe 12 weeks or something crazy in between retightenings because I couldn't find a loctician. Can you kind of speak about, going on the Sisterlocks website to find somebody?
So when you do, you definitely want to go to the website, the sisterlocks.com. You'll go to finding a trainee or a consultant, and then they have everybody listed by state, also by country, because I think they do have some people like in the Caribbean and stuff who do locks, and I believe she's going to be trying to go to Africa as well too. But they do have a list that's on there, and even for the trainees too. So if you decide to go to the trainee side because you want to find a cheaper route to go, because that's usually how you get a cheaper route with Sisterlocks, is to find a trainee. If you look and you see that person is marked as official, certified, approved, it's some word that they might put alongside there. I can't remember the exact term, so I apologize. But it just means that trainee has turned in one qualifying head, because you have to turn in 3 in order to become certified.
Gotcha.
So they don't play about their grids, and they want to make sure that not only did you do the grid, but you get the consultation and all of that.
Now, I do have a question, actually, something I never really considered. Can you get removed from the listserv, like if you don't stay up with your trainings?
So you can be. So like I was on there, and I never did actually go and turn in qualifying heads to become a consultant. And I don't do installs because my partying is not great, and I'm not going to do that to anybody. And so, I mean, I have done installs, but I just let them know they got Microlocs and not Sisterlocks.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do. They have it on there.
Okay. So have you ever seen anybody who maybe they were not doing a great job in the Sisterlocks craft and they got removed from the list, or not really?
I have not heard of that happening, but I'm pretty sure that it could be, because she's, like I said, she's very protective of her brand.
As she should be.
And after about 2 years, if I hadn't gotten certified, they did remove me off of the website. So I'm no longer on there listed as a trainee.
See, now I do find that very interesting because you're obviously a very talented loctician. So someone who has, you're welcome, it's the truth. Someone who has been removed from the listserv of the sister locticians on the website, how do they publicize their business?
They would just have to advertise themselves at that point, you know.
Okay.
And then I would say for the consumer, for the potential client, you would just need to do your due diligence. You would need to make sure that this person actually did go and take the class. You can always ask them for proof, but then you can ask for references and just ask to check their work and see to make sure that they actually can do what you're asking for.
Now, see, the thing about checking work, though, if you are the lay person who's never had Sisterlocks before, seeing a good grid pattern versus seeing a bad grid pattern, they might look the same, right?
Well, that's true. But again, you know, doing your due diligence, they have like all of those social media groups that you can go to. And you have locticians that are in there. And so you can always, if you have the picture, maybe they showed it to you. Maybe you can ask somebody in that group, you know, post that picture and ask them if that's, you know, a Sisterlock grid pattern. And then some of them already have pictures that they have posted. So maybe you can compare it.
That is such a great suggestion. So anybody out there on your Sisterlocks journey or looking for a consultant or a trainee, I think utilizing those social media groups can be a very useful tool to just broaden your scope of locticians that you can use, because like I mentioned before, I had a hard time finding a loctician in Ohio, but had I tapped into like my local community with the Facebook groups, it might not have been that hard.
Yeah, you can get word of mouth and stuff, because I'm telling you, these Sisterlock communities, they're small.
Yes, indeed. I found her by word of mouth. I literally just Googled Sister Loctician Kansas City and her loctician came up, and then she wasn't taking new clients, but she referred me to Melissa, and here we are a year later, still going strong. Yeah. Now, another con or consideration to keep in mind when you are considering getting Sisterlocks is to just know if having small locks are for you. Some people, now to me this is a pro, but to somebody else may be a con. They might not like the uniformity that comes along with having Sisterlocks, and they might want the larger, more free-flowing traditional locks look versus like a very strategic and like parted and planned Sisterlock grid pattern. So just really evaluate what it is that I guess you want your ultimate look to finally be once you get on the other side of your installation, to know if Sisterlocks are even going to be for you. Yeah, because the look that you get from like palm rolls or traditional locks is very different than what you get when you have Sisterlocks in your head. And now one thing I do want to mention, because I do think it is important to just be very transparent, knowing what I know now about Sisterlocks and just the sizes and everything, I think, so we mentioned it, but there are small, medium, and large locks that kind of fall under the umbrella of Sisterlocks, right? And I have what you call small, and you too, right, Melissa?
Yes,
and there are some women who have medium. So that's why sometimes you might look at somebody's locks and be like, I think those are Sisterlocks, but those are bigger than so-and-so's.
Right.
But yet there is still some consistency. You'll be able to tell that they are Sisterlocks. But knowing what I know now, I would have gotten medium-sized locks for a few reasons. Number one, I thought the smaller the lock, the better it will give me like versatility and be able to part my hair and style my hair. And number two, I wanted my hair to be very, very, very full. And I think I could have still achieved both of those desires with medium-sized locks, but still had the benefit of not having to sit 6 hours for like super duper small locks and the retightenings that are associated with them. Number two, probably would have saved me a little bit of money because the install was pretty pricey and the retightenings do take more time. And number three, I just didn't do enough research. I didn't even know that medium locks were even still considered Sisterlocks.
But I think too, what comes into play, that if you had known what you were wanting to do with your hair and had explained that to your loctician, then your loctician could have came in and said like, hey Tiffany, instead of us doing these tiny locks, how about we do it, this way?
Yes.
So again, that's the reason why knowing exactly what you want. And then it's selecting your loctician matters, because you want a loctician that's going to educate you and actually knows
Yes.
what the Sisterlocks are gonna do.
Yep, because they're so customizable. What Tiffany might desire from her hair might be different than what Melissa desires, which might be different from what you desire. So that is why it's so important to do your research. By watching this video right now, you're doing your due diligence to make sure that when you go into that consultation and when you go into that establishment, that you are empowered to know what it is that's going to just be the best fit for you, your lifestyle, your pocket, and your desires. Yeah, so that is one thing that I really do love about Sisterlocks, is that there's really no one size fits all approach. I mean, yes, the whole point of the brand is to kind of keep it relatively uniform, but at the end of the day, my sister and I might have Sisterlocks have, you know, different type of hair textures and achieve two very different looks, but still both fall under the umbrella of Sisterlocks.
Right.
So yeah, you guys, if you are enjoying this Loctician Speaks series, make sure you give it a like. That really helps me out. It helps the algorithm and helps to push this content out to people who might find it useful. And let me know down in the comments if there's anything that you want me to address in the next Loctician Speaks episode, because like I just want to be a useful resource as you are on your journey, and just to be here to answer any questions that you may have and help in any way that I can. So let me know down in the comments what you want to see next, what you're thinking about this Loctician Speaks series, and if you want me to ask Melissa anything specifically in the next video, because as you can tell, she's very cooperative with us. So thank you so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.